Well, welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. I've said that now for almost 450 episodes and for over 8 years. And today is my last podcast episode. And as I was explaining that to my dear friend, Katie Johnson, she said, well, what are you going to do for your last episode? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe talk about fear, since that's my big thing. And she said, I would love to interview you. And I thought, wow,
You're brave.
I'm brave. She said, do you want to know the questions ahead of time? And I said, no, I've never done that before in any of my episodes. I never plan them ahead. Why would I start now? So Katie's put together some questions for me that we hope will kind of shed some light on a summary of what this has meant to me to be here with you, and last bits of wisdom. And I'm putting myself in the hands of somebody that I trust completely. So there you go. Welcome, Katie, to the podcast. And this is not your first trip to my podcast.
No, it's my third.
Yeah, obviously, I really like you because I don't think anybody's been on.
Oh, really?
No one. You're the only one. Yeah, one and only. Third trip.
Well, thank you. It's an honor. And I'm delighted that you picked me to be on your very last one.
Yeah,
That's super fun.
it is, because not only have you listened to so many of them, but also you know me so
Yeah.
well. I think there are very few people that know me really through and through the way that you do.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And that is reciprocal.
Wow. All right, girl, let's get started.
All right. Well, I approached this kind of methodically. I really wanted to get into the feeling of it and the meaning of it, because it's crafting.
Yeah.
So you've held space for hundreds of conversations over the years. And today the space is about you. And so my first question is, Mary, what question about life did you think you were exploring at the beginning? And what question did you actually end up answering? Well, with all your preferences.
I think the question that I thought I was going to help people explore was kind of how to become a badass, how to take on fear by storm, how to never look at it again and shirk away, but to push through it. And if you recall, at the beginning of these things, on my podcast and kind of really everywhere, I had claimed the title of Badass Woman with a Purpose, Grace, and Grit. And I had this big, hot pink dress on, and just that whole attitude of like, ah. And over the years, Katie, over the last 8 years, I've let go of that phrase. I don't use it anymore. That's one of stuff. Because before, I felt like I just had to put my stake in the ground and be larger and louder than life. And I realized that is out of my fear of becoming invisible. And the other thing I learned was I did become invisible. And mostly I didn't become invisible to me. I continued to try and explore my depth and my life, to get to know more about me. And as I got to know more about me, I had more to share with helping others see that path. It wasn't about being a badass. It was about seeing me and having others see that. Because really, no matter how much I talk on this program or other people have talked, it's not about becoming someone new or someone else. I really have wanted people to discover themselves and that all the answers they've ever sought for are actually right here. And the only reason to listen to a podcast is what it might spur inside of you, not what's inside someone else.
And I think that's why so many people resonated with it, because it was like sitting down with a good friend every week. And there's a realness about me that people are so drawn to. You know that. That's not news.
That's not news.
That's not news.
That's not news.
Um, what did it require from you emotional to keep returning to the microphone week after week?
I think one of the key words that I thought of every single week was curiosity. I'm just I didn't know I was naturally curious, but I discovered in these podcasts that I am naturally curious. People would talk and I wouldn't ever think about questions ahead of time. I'd read about them, but I would never formulate my questions ahead. And I would just listen. That key to listening intently brought up questions inside of me. Like, well, like, what about that? And how about this? And did you ever do this? And wow, I can't believe you did this. And it gave me things to talk about by being naturally curious that I didn't know I was this way. And that's not going to stop with my podcast ended.
Oh, I'm sure it will.
I'm going to just continue to be naturally curious. And so how can our lives help but continue to expand and crescendo as we're naturally curious about ourselves, about others, about life, about the way the universe works? How does time work? There's just so many things to think about that I'm curious about.
I want a good message. It almost feels whimsical. It's just you have this zest for enjoying life. I think you wake up every day and it's just a world. What can I do today?
Well, actually, I lay in bed in the morning and I kind of do just some stretching, getting the joints moving around and laying there, taking some deep breaths. And then when I'm ready, usually I get up before John. We go to bed exactly the same time every night. But in the mornings, I get up first. I reach over, touch him for a moment, just let him know that I'm leaving. I sit up, throw my legs over, and there they are hanging off the bed. I look down at my feet and I ask, what did we go on today? I really think through my day or what I want my day to be about. And I see my feet. I actually see them walking. And then when I feel grounded and settled, I say, let's go. And I put my feet down the way I go. I'm like, no,
That's very intentional too.
very intentional.
Yeah. Don't wish you had done that your whole life, or have you done that?
No, I haven't done it my whole life.
I'm listening to you thinking, man, I wish I had done that.
Yeah. I probably have been doing that about 5 years.
Nice.
And it really has set my intention. Katie, you and I both know that we love to meditate. And I love to do it in the morning. But our lives are such that not every single day there's that time. But this thing that I do in the bedroom in the morning on the edge of my bed takes about 30 seconds. Every one of us has 30 seconds to give to ourselves. Yeah. And it just sets me on a path every single day. And throughout the day, even. If I look down at my feet, that all comes back to me. Oh, yeah, this is what we're doing. Sorry, I got a little off. Get back over here,
Oh, I liked it. Okay, here's my next question. What did you learn about listening, not just speaking, over the years?
Oh, that truly is the most important thing a podcaster can do. And that listening, I've loved this phrase. I've known it for a long time, but I've really taken it to heart, podcasting. That listening, genuine, authentic listening, is not simply waiting for your turn to talk. And in my beginning years of podcasting, I had a pen and a paper, and as people would talk, I would jot down what I was going to say, and then be able to say my piece. And it really kept me from hearing that.
Interesting.
And if I didn't worry about what I was going to say and simply listened, what I was going to say just naturally came out. I didn't need to worry about it or write it down. even across the screen when we are like on camera and I have a guest who is thousands of miles away. I've interviewed people who were in the middle of South Pacific, in Greece, in Dubai. The distance did not separate us if I was able to listen. And the thing I really learned, Katie, was that even that far away, they could steal me. They knew they're always hearing that. We all have that ability. Absolutely. It's not anything special that I have. It's just that I use it. And so no one has failed to use it.
That's true. It's listening. You also are so good at feeling. For those of you who don't know Mary in person, if you're at a party or some social function, and a lot of people, when she focuses on you, she'll come right up. She'll put her hands on your arms and she'll look right in your eyes.
Sure.
During your exchange. And a lot of people don't do that. And it's very heartfelt. It's very genuine. It's lovely. It's one of my favorite things about it. Crafting a meaningful life has been your tagline and your title.
Yep. Haven't changed that.
You have not changed it. Looking back, what did you once believe would bring meaning to your life that ultimately didn't? And what surprised you by meaning more than you ever imagined?
Good question. Yeah. I'll share with you what came to my mind immediately. And that was when I first started. I did so through the lens of ambition. And in the beginning, I thought, well, I had a great career before. This career is going to be amazing. And so it's always felt like pushing. It always felt like, oh, I want to interview this person. Pushing. I want to make sure that I have this and pushing. And that's what you do when you focus on the lens of ambition. And it was about 6 months ago. Phoebe, I've been retired for 7 years, and only for the last 6 months have I set down a lens of ambition. Simon, it's not about making money. It's not about being more than. It's not about achieving something that I haven't already achieved. I come back to this again and again, and you know exactly what I'm going to say. It's simply the lens of love. And people talk about legacy. My legacy, I used to say, oh, I had my company, that was a legacy. I had my children, that's a legacy. All the things I've done, that's a legacy. But legacy is such a fallacy because legacy has everything centered here on what you've accomplished and what you've done. And can truly our legacy be just about how others have grown, what they're doing now, how they are, something they heard me say, seeing me do something, acting, that they've picked up something now and are living life to the fullest, that they are now about love. I wanted this last to be about sitting down and lens of ambition. At age 72, I don't have to do anything.
That you're telling me. I'm hearing you say that is more meaningful than anything else has been.
It is. I have grown so much. I tell you what, I think about the person that I was when I started off and who I am today. I was 65. I was 64, actually, when I started this podcast.
Younger than me.
Yeah, what up? And how much I have grown it myself. It's been worth every penny and every ounce of time that I have pushed you for. I've grown for.
Good answer. What have your 20,000-ish listeners and the people you've helped taught you about dignity, resilience, and grace?
Mm. I've said a lot of great one-liners in my life. I have a lot of great one-liners in my book, and I say, and when I talk, put out these zinger one-liners. And someone said to me that you have more one-liners than anybody that I know. And I think that that's kind of a great thing to be able to have things that I've learned over the years that I can share with people. But I think the thing that people will remember about me most is not the one-liners, but how I looked at them and how they felt when I shared them with them. I was with a group of women the other night, and I was supposed to talk 20 minutes, and an hour and a half I talked because I could see they were wanting so depth, more understanding about what I'm speaking about. And afterwards, I was going from table to table, kind of talking to them. And consistently, what I hear after I speak, and I always have to kind of take a breath, is when I grow up, I want to be just like you. And I kind of let out this sigh. And what I say and tell them is, don't you know that you are? If they weren't already all the things that they admire in me, they wouldn't see them in me.
They wouldn't recognize it.
They
It wouldn't
wouldn't.
resonate.
It wouldn't. And so they are well on their way to crafting these meaningful lives. They don't have to try and be like me. They get to try and be like them, who they already are. I just am peeling away the layers so that they can see that.
And I'm sure you've learned a lot from the people that you've interviewed on top of it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Some of the most profound things, I think of different people that I've talked to, men and women. It's been interesting to me when I have male listeners and when I have men who want to be on my podcast. I love that because it's kind of a woman's deal.
Yeah.
And I have most of my listeners are women, but not all. And I love that they can see the value, the universal value of the things we talk about. They really are not men or women values. They are universal values. And that universal value that I preach, obviously, more than anything else, is that of oneness. You know, Katie, what we are in the middle of right now with our country. And I want this podcast to be timeless, so that someone can listen to it 2 years from now and have it be just as relevant.
Right.
But I hope to shout that what we're going through right now will be united. And it will be relevant. That when I say oneness, I don't mean sameness. I don't think we should be the same. If everyone were Mary Crafts, we'd probably all just slit our wrists and like, okay, be done. This is so much, too much, too much. But if we were all anything, I'm not talking about sameness. I'm talking about oneness, where I see another and I see me in them. And they see me and they see themselves being me. It's a reciprocal exchange. And am I my brother's keeper? Absolutely. And they are mine. That we are in this together. What has got us to this point is the exact opposite of oneness. Us and them. And fear. The reason that we are afraid of people that are not like us is because you don't know them and you don't understand them. And if they're not like us, I'm afraid of them. Can't I just love them even if I don't know them and don't understand them? I can't. I know because I've done it. It's still the answer.
Well, the creatures of habit, resonate with what you've been taught to believe and value. And one thing you do is you allow us space to step outside of this same old comfort zone.
Yeah.
Very nice. I like it.
You know, it's amazing to me that you came up with these big questions. You're like, wow,
Some depth.
you are an interesting soul. Well, that's why we resonate in kind of. So one time, Katie and I went. This made me think about when we went to Machu Picchu together, and we went with a group of networking people, and both of us have been just divorced.
Yeah, divorced.
Yeah. And we went down, and it was the most spiritual thing we got to Machu Picchu. And we went with a group of people that we had known for a long
time.
Years. We weren't like newbies to them. We were like best friends with them. But suddenly, they didn't understand two women traveling together.
And it was a couple's trip.
It was
a couple's trip.
Yeah. So everyone else was husband and wife, except for us. And by the end of that trip, I hope to shout, because they didn't understand two women traveling together and what would possibly be the bind that they would want to travel together. It became weird.
We didn't care.
Yeah. Are they sharing the same room? Do they share the same bed?
We should have started them.
Oh my gosh. We didn't need to start them. They started their own.
They were happening.
But we just flowed with it. So sometimes just to be little wicked people, we would sit next to each other and just like, they'd be like,
and we went on a couple trips, not just that one.
we went to California, as well. We went to
the beast.
Yeah. But to disappoint them all in their gossip, we did both get married shortly after that. Well, not shortly, but yeah, we both got married within a year.
Yeah, we did end up. We found the loves of our life.
Yeah,
that's been another thing to connect over to.
Yeah, and I loved having women friends like you that we can just sit with and let it all out.
Oh yeah,
without fear. I think that's what we provide for each other, and in our circle of women, this safe place. Safe place.
Or you can talk about hard things. Like if I ask you for feedback, I know it might come pretty hardcore. You're going to tell me exactly.
Don't ask for what you're not ready.
Vice versa. And that's one of the biggest values.
It is.
Of that friendship. And we're not listening.
Our husbands would not think we would.
Okay, here's the next question.
Okay.
As an internationally awarded caterer with a love affair with food and its ritual consumption, what has been the recipe for success of this podcast? Are there recipe staples for your podcast?
Yeah. Vulnerability is the number one ingredient. That's the first ingredient that I bring every single week, and that I implore my listeners to embrace in their life. If I cannot be vulnerable with people, how can I expect them to share with me their true selves? I was recently on someone else's podcast, and I just was flowing with it because she felt so safe. Afterwards, the woman that was scheduling her podcast called me and said, well, how did things go? Did you enjoy it? And I said, I think I shared things on that I never shared in my life. And she said, oh, well, do you want me to look at them and edit them? And I really sat with that for a while, Katie. And I thought, if this is what I asked of myself, and it's what I asked of my listeners, how can I possibly come back and say, yeah, edit out that stuff. I don't want people to know that. I had to leave it.
Good for you.
And in my podcast last month about weight loss and the weight loss journey, I said it was a bariatric surgeon who was in it. I was interviewing, and we talked about all the different ways of losing weight and dealing with emotional status as well. And how can you possibly heal physically if you're not at the same time working at healing emotionally and mentally, spiritually, socially? And so as I looked at that, and I told him before we started, you know, I just may share things on here that I've never shared anywhere before. And he said, okay. And then the podcast was going along, and I think he was wanting to know what I was going to share. So finally he said, well, I don't usually tell my patients this, but I've also had bariatric surgery. He became extremely vulnerable. Well, I knew, but that was the door swinging wide for me.
Yep.
And then I stepped in. It ended up, even though he was a medical doctor and not necessarily an emotional, therapist, we had therapy on each other, and it was amazing.
That sounds awesome.
That's the number one thing, my recipe, vulnerability.
Okay. How has your viewpoint of a meaningful life changed from interviewing so many with additional thoughts and perspectives?
Sometimes I interview people, not often, but once in a while I interview people, and I just am like, seriously? That's your goal in life? Okay. If my goal in life was to have 1 million followers on social media, I'd probably just cash it in right now. But some people have actually said that on my podcast. For me, the way that you get followers is by being authentic and vulnerable and showing up for yourself and for others. But that's not the case always. Sometimes you get calls because you are showing the shocking and the bizarre.
Yeah, that's true.
But in the end, that does not create for you a meaningful life. In the end now, as I look at my meaningful life, I live with contentment. Like I said, I set down that lens of ambition. I live with contentment in abundance and with myself. Do you know what it's like to not want for anything? You do know that. You're one of the few people that do know that. I have everything that I want. Now, do I still struggle? You betcha. Do I still think sometimes, oh, I would love to do this. I wonder if I'll have money for that. But those kind of things are just common everyday life things. But the things that matter in life, I have everything I need. Did I survive yesterday? I did.
And it's been a journey.
It's been a journey.
You weren't just born like this rainbows and unicorns in your life. You've been through some stuff.
I have been through some stuff, and gratitude for every single step. I think that key thing of gratitude, I've always been a grateful person, but just becoming more grateful all the time. That's how my life has been crafted in settling in to contentment. Like I said, I set down that lens of ambition.
I'm hearing contentment, I'm hearing abundance, I'm hearing vulnerability, I'm hearing curiosity.
Yeah. Those are my deals.
I love it. Okay, as you end this podcast and this weekly conversation you have with your listeners, what does it look like to you to step back and trust, believing that your community can continue to grow and thrive without? I mean, when the voice that you created is quiet,
Yeah, no, I'm not planning on
there has
leaving
to be
this
a comfort level.
but there is a comfort level for me because I believe that I've established those people. And to be honest with you, a lot of those people follow me on social media. They know that I'm available to come speak to them. They know that I'm actually available to have coffee with them, that I'm actually available to, text them.
And that's not just lip service. You really do that.
I really do. And I text dozens and dozens of people a day that just say, I need a word for today. Okay. And I really take time to sit with that and see it come to me and share a word with people. And it's always, how did you know that? Like, I probably didn't, but I trust. Trust is such a big thing, Katie. I've learned to trust myself and learned to trust my intuitions, not my gut intuitions that are oftentimes filled with fear, but my heart intuitions that are in alignment between my mind and my heart. And I trust those now, like I've never trusted them before. That's one of the things this podcast has taught me is trust. Trust in myself. I trust myself to get on the air with you guys every single week and not make a fool of myself. I trust myself that I'm okay. And if I mess up, you're just there to forgive me and put it all back.
But the more you delve into your trust and your intuition, the more real it is.
Yeah.
And it's effortless. Like you're saying, you used to have to really prepare.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what am I going to say? How is this going to look? And now you're simply effortlessly sharing there.
I have downstairs several notebooks of notes in the beginning. The first couple of years, I would get up every Monday morning at 5 a.m. in the morning and write my podcast out and then be able to give my podcast. I haven't written out a podcast for 6 years, even my own that I've done by myself.
That's good. I mean, you just extemporaneously sit down and you can just talk, and it's like those are my favorite. I've told you that many times. I love it when you just kind of riff on a subject like that.
Yeah, I can riff.
You're a busy girl.
I'm a busy girl. John loves that phrase because it's what I told him the first night we ever talked on the phone when he wanted to have, go out with me, and it was Wednesday, and I said, well, let's see. I'm looking through my calendar. And I said, maybe Sunday night after my kids go home. And he said, it's Wednesday. I go, I'm a busy girl.
I call that the merry-go-round. If you want to know, I've teased her for years. Her life is the merry-go-round.
The merry-go-round. It's true. It's true.
I love it. Okay. I want to talk about you now. Your soulful energy is your secret power. In your philanthropy, in your commitments, and the way you show up. You show up like almost no one else I know. So what I'm saying is your presence is a spiritual gift that you have in abundance. How has your relationship with the sacred changed over the years of your podcast? I told you I was going to go deep, honey.
Yeah. My relationship with the sacred. I've often said that I'm not a religious person anymore, where I need organized religion to create a relationship for me with others, as higher beings, with the universe, with my ancestors, as those who are yet to come. I don't need an intercessory religious church to do that. And I'm fine with those who are in that place. I'm fine. That's works for them. It no longer works for me. But I have found, and you know how I feel about my sacred garden. It's just out there.
I've watched you tear out talking about watching a robin.
Yeah.
For the squirrels.
The robins came back yesterday, January.
Yeah.
And then that's supposed to be here till April. That kind of messed up this year. But this ability to go within and without at the same time has been a key for me to sit within myself and then to open myself to all the knowledge that's there. That has been one of the biggest growths for me during this time.
And I think that's why I called it in the question, your soulful energy. And it's not necessarily spirituality, although it's tied to that for sure. But there is just a soulfulness that I think attracts people to you.
Well, in the beginning, when I would think about showing up someplace, I oftentimes tell the story about when I was coming out of my fear stage through my 50s, and that I had been afraid to show up at like a networking event, and afraid I'd have to perform, or how did they expect me to show up, or how is everyone else showing up? Because that's how I need to show up. And that kind of fear really just put me in a box. And when I opened up that box and said, are you ready to come out? Are you ready to be you? Not what someone else expects you to be. Can you show up in love? Love is my secret weapon. And now I'm not afraid to show up anywhere, no matter what the circumstance, because I know that when I show up in love, that energy of my soul leads the way. It's in front of me.
And I've known you through this whole transition.
Yeah.
We're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting because I'm at a dance that you're at, and there's almost a Mary Krause is here. Mary Krause is here. But it's not a, oh wow, can we step in her glory?
Yeah,
Can we
it's not
bask
that
in
at all.
No, it's like everyone's friend has arrived.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really cool.
And that they can come right up to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's an accessibility.
There is. I love that. I don't ever want to be. Sometimes I'll be someplace, I'll be walking through, and I will hear, I think that's Mary Krause. Sometimes I'm prompted just to turn around and look. I find them every time I turn, and just smile. A pause for just a second to see what their intention is. And sometimes their intention is just to like, and I like, and sometimes their intention is to connect. Yeah. And so I walk to them as they walk to me.
Or I'll hear them, Mary Krause is here. She's one of my friends, And I listen to their exchange, and I'm thinking, oh, she's one of my best friends.
That's crazy. But do you know, it's not because I'm famous, and it's not because I am wealthy, and it's not because I'm this hotty toddy. It's not because of any of those things. Is that they know that they can be connected to me.
Yes, they're a Pied Piper of people.
Oh, I like that. The Pied Piper people.
It's true. Okay. This is an ending the podcast. What is this ending asking of you personally?
Yeah. To keep living in crescendo. Ooh, like that. It's like when I entered my career, just like when your children graduate from high school and leave the nest, just like when I divorced, just like when I left home at 18, all those things are endings, yes, but they're also the greatest of beginnings. I don't see myself ending anything, but rather growing into what's next. And I don't believe that it's over for me when I'm learning from this planet and when I'm offering this planet. I'm not ready to pass to the next sphere of existence. Sometimes when we travel, I travel with this sense of security. When we were in Ukraine and we could hear the bombs, and John said she would go down to the bomb shelter, and there was this sense inside it, and you don't need to go. I'm not finished here yet. And there are like this summer when I had this horrible, like last summer, this kidney infection, and they put me in the hospital because I had kidney stones and my whole kidney was backed up and inflamed. And they kept saying that phrase, my most favorite phrase of all, a woman at your age, this can be very serious. Stop saying that. Stop saying that. A woman my age. Stop it. But I wasn't afraid. Ever. I just know that there's so much left for me to give and grow and share and be about. I want to be on with it.
So ending the podcast is simply a cessation of that, but the modality of how you interact and present in the world is just simply changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
To a different modality.
I want to do more one-on-one with people. I want to do more small group speaking. Every speaker thinks that their dream is to speak to a room of 5,000. And I've done that. It's certainly fulfilling, right? But it's not the be-all end-all. For me, the be-all end-all is when you're talking to a room of 30 people and you touch the lives of each and every one of them. That's what I'm going to be about now. Not through the lens of a camera, not through the lens of my speakers, but simply through my lens of love. Is there another book?
I know you've tried it.
I have. I wondered if it was part of the lens of ambition. But then when you realize how much it costs you to put a book out there, no, this has nothing to do with ambition. Well, maybe it's so. I mean, you can say, well, I have a book. I'm published. So if I write another book, Katie, it will only be when I'm absolutely sure that I have set down the lens of ambition. This has nothing to do with that. This has only to do with how I see that I can be of service. The motivation will be different. Shift all the time. Yeah.
Hey, well, speaking of love, this is my last question.
Fair.
This podcast were a love letter. Who was it ultimately written to?
When I was writing my book, a publisher asked me, who is your audience? And naively, and don't ever answer this because it's the wrong answer. Naively, I said, to everyone. Why not? Everyone will want to read my book. There's wisdom for all. And so my first response to your thought is like, everyone. But in reality, when you said that, what brought tears to my eyes immediately was thinking, this podcast wasn't done for everyone. This podcast, all the money, all the years, all the time, all the commitment was done for the woman. For the sake of the whole. That's all.
And was that you as well?
Yes. My home has always led my podcast. And the disappointing part may be to some that you're never here. But actually, that's the exciting part, because there's always a reason to get up in the morning. There's always a reason to meditate, to ponder, to read someone else's work, to listen to somebody else's podcast, to stop at a grocery store, to pay for someone's groceries. There's always a reason for you to continue and to be more. And more is an interesting concept, so don't mistake it as striving because I feel lack. Wanting additional growth in my life comes out from a point of contentment first. Yeah. And if tomorrow is my last day on this planet, I never want to regret having lived it to the full. That's a great place to say. Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, dear friend. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for sharing this with me today as we ended the podcast and signed off. I'm not going away. I'm not dying. There just won't be a weekly podcast. You can go back and listen to other ones, old ones, though that's available to you. But let's stay in contact. Reach out to me on my social media and just know that I'm never far away, that I'm always here, and that there are a group of us, of powerful women goddesses upon this planet that walk with the sole intent of shining light. Katie's one of them. I am blessed and so grateful to know Katie and so many of our dear friends that that's all the desire is to shine a light, a large flashlight on your path so that you can see the way more clearly as you craft your meaning forward. Namaste.
Crafting a meaningful life.